Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. I'm Destin Legary, and joining me today is CJ Gibson.
What's up?
Fran Mirabella.
Hey, Guardians.
And Sean Finnegan.
Hello.
If you're listening to the audio version of the show, thank you. If you have some time, please take a moment to leave a review as it helps us grow. By the way, on that front, quick shout-outs to Deadwolf, ICN Ba, Hello Adam, and Stacks for the recent 5-star reviews. Now, about the show. Today we'll be discussing the Destiny 2 ESRB rating from a father's perspective, how we feel about Iron Banner choosing Mayhem Clash, and our thoughts after a PC tease from Activision's Eric Hirschberg. But first, here's the news. In Destiny 2 news, Activision's Hirschberg said that pre-orders for the sequel are tracking amongst the top in Activision's publishing history, but more importantly, they talked about the content pipeline. They believe that they're going to be able to keep up with demand for the sequel with a stream of great content to keep pace with user engagement. It sounds like we'll have plenty to talk about regularly for the sequel. On the Destiny 2 PC front, they said that they are committed to delivering meaningful features that are bespoke to the PC community and to expect more on the May 18th reveal. We're not sure what he's teasing, but we have some theories in today's full episode of Fireteam Chat. On the Destiny 1 front, if you saw a tweet saying that Activision is adding something to Destiny 1, that is not correct. Activision slipped up during their earnings call saying new content would be coming to Destiny 1, but they confirmed with IGN and later on Twitter that they misspoke and confirmed that Age of Triumph is the last update to the original Destiny. Iron Banner is back, and it is Mayhem this week, running from May 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific until the 16th at 2 a.m. Rewards include the Clever Dragon Pulse Rifle, Silver Dread Machine Gun, chest, and leg pieces. If you listen early enough, Xur has a 95% Twilight Garrison chest for Titans that is int dis, 93% Void Fangs for Warlocks, and 87% Don't Touch Me's alongside a Mida multi-tool. The May 18th reveal is just 13 days away, and I am ridiculously excited. Stay tuned to IGN for more soon. So let's jump back to the bespoke PC features that they're discussing. So I talked to James Duggan, a resident PC player who's going to be playing a ton of Destiny on PC. He said mods were the first thing that came to mind, and not like flying around as Superman, more like UI mods, DPS meter, macros, FOV slider, on-cap frame rate, keyboard chat, linking items in chat. I brought up Forge. What do you guys think about that? Even from the field of view perspective, Fran, you and I were talking about this. For something like Trials, you can literally see all the way around your body at all times.
Yeah, for people with those ridiculous setups, that is one advantage to PC, or even if you just have a widescreen monitor, you can just see more of the map. Yeah. I mean, again, that's where we were talking previous weeks. Like, PC is just a different beast. We can't expect it to be the same thing. The only caveat I have is, like, I don't know that makes it a bad thing. I heard kind of both tones. I heard one side of like, oh no, it's going to ruin the game and change it, and they're going to focus on PC and it's going to become an esport, and nobody actually said that, but I sort of heard it in the back of my head. And then, yeah, I think the other side is it's great to have this new playing field. That's how I feel.
Why would it be a problem if it was an esport?
Well, we had previously talked a little bit about how it might be a bad thing if, at least in my perspective, if Bungie has to independently balance PC as a platform versus Xbox and PlayStation 4. That's all.
Well, Activision does...
Like in and of itself, it's not a bad thing.
No, you're right. The balancing act is actually, that is...
But like we talked about how even without PC in the equation during Destiny 1, that it was problematic that they didn't independently balance PvE and PvP. Mm-hmm. And that already caused a problem for a lot of people. If they have to throw in PC, which, as Fran said, is a totally different beast, it may throw the balance into even more whack.
But you're saying you want them to keep the balance the same between PC and console?
I mean, I personally don't like the idea of knowing as an Xbox player that PC players are playing essentially a different game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They would be. They would have totally different meta for that product.
I mean, depending on the mods, right? Like, so let's be clear up front. There was a little bit of discussion on one of the episodes where we talked about mods in the past on YouTube.
Yeah, you brought up macros.
Yeah, like mod is just short for modification. That can mean any sort of things. It can mean like a slight change to how your UI works, or a script that allows you to switch guns faster, or in a particular way. It could also be, like you pointed out, GTA mods, which are essentially entirely different games that modify the whole game systemically from the ground up.
I mean, that one gets me the most excited because, we're going to see Destiny movies now that are going to be easier for users to create because they can just they'll figure out how to get the character models out of there. I think the one in recent memory that was most locked down was like Injustice, but people got stuff out of there. Eventually, they were able to swap in character models on other characters. It was really, really interesting to see just how much the PC community can do.
Yeah,
Now, we're talking about Sorry, Sean. We're talking about game-changing stuff here, like UI, DPS meter, macros. That stuff would be really cool. That would be helpful. It wouldn't necessarily be a negative, in my opinion.
I mean, it depends on the context in which you're playing, right? So for esports, mods and stuff are really contained because the primary goal of an esport or a competitive game is that the balance is no one's at an advantage, right? So like you have to have like a balanced competitive playing field. And so for instance, one of the old mods in Counter-Strike was this like cartoony mod, which had like players had really big heads and super long noses. And it made it so that like if you were using that skin set, you could see an enemy who was hiding behind a box because his nose was huge. And it's like you can see his nose sticking out. And that puts you in an advantage that in an esports sort of sense would be unfair. So I mean,
they figured out ways to balance that stuff out.
Yeah, what I mean is, in a competitive environment, that kind of stuff has to be really tightly controlled. But like, if you're just creating private matches, you want to have fun with your friends and go crazy with all these crazy mods, like that would be really cool.
So one note on this quarterly earnings thing for all you guys to know is that Activision was bringing home the esports genre and how like they see the future for Activision being in this esports division. They think digital players are going to be seen like football stars, and they already kind of are being with like Dota and LoL. And they kind of want to break into that realm, and they're kind of doing it with Overwatch right now. So I think I would not be surprised at all if Destiny also got their foot in the door. They kind of tried it with Rift when Rift was revealed, and they did that Red Bull sponsored thing where they had teams compete. And they had private matches. I feel like they were putting their toe in the water, you know, to see what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that it's on PC, it has all the opportunity to be that. But that also, what I would say is it does not take away from what I think we've seen is a huge casual but hardcore broad. It's got a huge depth of an audience. Everyone from kids to adults to everyone in between. And I think, again, I try to look at it that way. There might be this esports conversation happening. But actually, if you look at Overwatch as a decent example, it's not like, right, they're not balancing it just for PC and it's breaking the console or anything like that. So far, that hasn't happened, right?
CJ,
not that I know of. I'm not a deep Overwatch player.
I think they are balancing console and PC separately for Overwatch. That was
I don't know about that.
Well, sometimes like that's what I've heard, and because I'm not an Overwatch player.
Yeah,
Calling a consult from James Duggan.
Yeah, but I think that's the issue. To me, I don't want it to be a situation where if I potentially want to swap between the two of them, that the PC one is dramatically different. That's an issue, and
I don't think it will be. It'll just be a different meta because you're going to have different.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be dramatically different because you're going up against a completely different beast. Really, you are
with the audience that's playing. But if the game speed changes or they start doing different things like that, that's where it's like to be able to go back and forth between them. I hope it's not dramatically different.
Sticky nades will be just as bad. Don't worry. Tracking will be 100% accurate.
Additional tracking, PC only.
I mean, I have a little bit of a worry because if you look at successful esports games, what makes them successful is the developer doubles down on balancing it specifically for esports, which means like games like StarCraft, League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike, and Overwatch. Did I say that already? No. Those are the big competitive multiplayer esports games out there right now. All of those developers balance for the top 1%. Like, if it isn't broken for the pros, that's what everyone else plays. And so I just have a little bit of a concern that if Activision does decide to go that route and double down on the esports route, I will feel coerced to go play on PC.
So here's the full quote. Let's just read it here. He's responding to an investor who had a question. So with respect to PC, which you've asked about, we're committed to delivering meaningful features that are bespoke to the PC community, and I'm really excited about what we have to show for them, but I'm going to leave details of those for our gameplay premiere, which is going to happen on May 18th. And we'll have some additionally, obviously exciting news on the game overall at that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's interesting is they're thinking about not letting you go and figure out your macros or whatever. It's we're going to put some stuff in there that's going to be bespoke for you.
And they have Blizzard on their team, so like they know how to implement what the community wants.
Yep.
One other thing, like we do this in Twitch a lot. We have like commands. If you want to see what your primary is, you can do exclamation point primary. Tells you to load out the drops on your roll. Like that stuff's just going to be in chat on PC. You can just hit it.
I think that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, just like sharing that information or like. I assume you can do the same thing. Have a plugin that looks up a player's information right on your game screen. I assume. So I think stuff like that's awesome.
Having to go into a menu, it can just be there in text form.
So I think that's the thing. I don't think it's negative, but I guess my fear is that it feels like, the PC might get so many cool features that may not come to console. And that's like, you kind of just want that to happen.
That's just the way that it is, though. And again, like that's where I feel like we have a bunch of folks that are now playing on console, talking about like, oh no, the PC Destin, like, he's cracking up. If you guys heard it, we're just gonna throw it out there. Destin had a teleprompter that he had in his hand, and it dropped. It's not a big deal, but he's trying not to break.
I guarantee you, no one heard that.
It would have been fine in 10 seconds.
He's staring at me, and he totally broke. He's like the SNL, like you.
I needed 15 seconds, and I would have reset.
Marty with the pen.
Let me get back to my point, please. Oh God. Woo. Shake it off, everybody. So no, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like, look, we don't play on PC a ton. I know you play Counter-Strike on PC though, right? Yeah. But we heavily play Destiny on this, and like, it's not a bad thing when the PC has like features necessarily. But the point is, we need to have that other perspective.
But it is if you're the console player, because no one plays Counter-Strike on console. Like, that's the thing is, it is on console, but you're a moron if you're playing it on that.
John Finnegan.
Like, no one does that.
Such
It's
a
a
nice
terrible.
guy.
What about a game like Team Fortress, where there's a huge console there is a console presence, but a lot of people play on PC. It's
Well, again,
It's not wrong. I disagree with what you're saying. Is
Well,
if you
no, no,
enjoy
no,
it,
no.
who
I'm saying,
cares?
you got to be difficult when you get into that water. Overwatch right now is pretty good on all platforms.
but we're talking about esports and competitive communities specifically.
Right.
If you're, again, like I would say the same thing. If you want to be a pro Overwatch player and you're playing on Xbox, you're doing it wrong. Like, you have to play on PC. And I'm just a little worried.
If that's your goal.
If that's your goal. And that's what I meant, is we're talking specifically
If you
about
want to be an
competitive
esports pro,
players here.
I agree with that part.
The difficult territory you get into when you said it the way you did is I don't want the console players to feel like they're dumb because they want to play on
Alienated,
console or alienated.
That's kind of, but that's what I mean is like if there's this shift in mentality on the developer side to what Destiny is, like at its core identity going forward, then console players might feel alienated because all this focus is happening on the PC front and none of those features are coming to console.
Yeah, Blizzard's
And they're-
PC focused.
Yeah, and they'll justify that by being like, well, the game is what it is on consoles. You're cool if you want to play it there. That's cool. But really, all the cool stuff's happening over here. That kind of sucks for console players. I just kind of worry as a console player that I'll feel left out.
Well, guys, let's talk about consoles for a second. We had somebody call into speakpipe.com/Fireteam chat. It was Big Daddy Tej, and he suggested making the D-pad mappable.
Oh, great idea. I mean,
If that was our solution on console, how would you feel about that? 4 commands at your disposal.
honestly, I think that was a feature that we should have had in Destiny
talked
1.
about
like
that.
it does in PvP and in PvE, it does emotes now. Like I would kill for it to just be heavy,
switching, yes.
heavy on the left, burn heavy. Like, oh my god, that'd be so great.
Yeah.
Stuff
Even
like
just
that.
4 extra commands that you can map to whatever you use most would be infinitely more useful than what it does now.
It would be interesting if there was an esports community on both the console side and PC side, and something like a mappable D-pad could change the game a little bit.
I remember early back in Halo 3 when it came out, MLG was releasing all their settings, and it was really odd because they changed the speed of the game. So if you remember, do you remember playing Halo 3 way back when? Were you in the
Yeah,
esports?
totally.
They actually put the speed of the game to like 120% or 125%. So going back to regular, Crucible, regular PvP, Crucible and Halo. But yeah, it was weird that those MLG settings changed the way the game felt. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean that's how esports work. Is Counter-Strike's if you play regular matchmaking 5v5 in competitive Counter-Strike, the round times are 2 minutes. But in MLG play or in competitive play, esports play, it's actually 145.
And they started forging things and changing the
many-
positions of
there's-
overshields and all that other stuff.
The maps are also tweaked. Like it's optimized and specifically balanced for competitive play, and that's how esports games thrive. If it doesn't do that, then they don't really work as well. And my worry is like if Destiny wants to make it work, they're going to have to do that.
Right.
And then that alienates the rest of the community who likes the casual aspect of it.
Could be good and
like
bad.
me.
Yeah, we could get the PC version, which would allow people to feel like, okay, you're specifying these specific things for PC, but bring them to console too. Like maybe that could be one of those things.
So I mean, I was going to say, we're kind of framing it like this is almost a bad thing for all the
That's what I
console
was saying,
players.
yeah.
And I want to say that's not necessarily the case. We just worry because we're console players. Now, what you just brought up is really interesting, which
We
is
can
that
just switch to PC if we want.
all these, but also what if this renewed focus and interest and higher engagement on PC drives Activision to do similar, if not the exact same things on console? That would be really, really cool.
That's true. That's true. All I know is that the Overwatch community seems happy on whatever platform they're playing on. So I don't see Destiny like going on some dark path where it ends up alienating one of the platforms, for example. The other half of the Activision call that was interesting was about the content pipeline. This had to be like really great news for content creators.
They canceled everything, right? I heard that.
They canceled everything. No, so
There is no content for Destiny 2.
Here's the full quote, you guys. Destiny's engagement has been the best in Activision's history, and we now have a lot of confidence that we're going to be able to keep up with demand with that steady stream of great content to sort of keep pace with our players' engagement post-release of Destiny 2. So as you know from our past, basically they're saying they're going to have
didn't release enough before.
Basically, PR thing, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They're going to regularly release content throughout the life cycle, and it's something they've addressed a few times. And this has to be great news. Like,
But Destin, how come all that content isn't already on the disc for $60?
I mean, that's probably the first comment that people are going to say.
Facetious. That's just what commenters
That's the first thing
who
you
don't play
think of
Destiny
before you even
say
see what's
all
on the
time.
disc. You would think that.
I mean, they also said their number one SKU that's selling is the one that's bundled in with DLC 1 and 2. So are we going to, from a revenue perspective, they want that franchise to make money for them.
Yeah.
So how would you guys feel if the content pipeline is going to be like one DLC release a quarter? Basically, until Destiny 3.
To me, it makes more sense now because the expectation for what Destiny 1 created is set. Like before, it used to be, hey, you're buying DLC and it's just maps. Now it's like it's PvP content, it's PvE content. There might be some, miscellaneous things that get tossed in there for free. So without playing it, it's hard to be able to establish, hey, this is what it is, right? So now the expectation with Destiny is huge, and that's where they need to have the roadmap early.
Philosophically, one content pack a quarter sounds awesome. One new thing every 3 months, depending on what it is, right? Like you said, depending on.
And what price is right though? $14.99?
I mean, I would say
$40?
Seems like they're saying $19.99.
How about this? Let me put it out there. Free.
Great idea.
Well, that was the thing.
Hey, it worked for Halo.
Well, no,
Games
for
should be
Destiny, the microtransactions that we were spending at the Eververse, we were told that was going towards the free content. We did get a few free content updates.
That was a lie, I'm sure.
Well, no, it wasn't. They released free stuff, but it was a little weird.
You don't
Like,
know.
Triumph is free.
Yeah.
Now,
But I
you
mean,
can look at that
Age
a
of
few
Triumph
ways,
is not like anything. It's
but
old
they could have not
content.
updated it.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like a House of Wolves.
I know, but is Age of Triumph free?
Everyone had the expectation
our
that
thought.
Eververse microtransactions would lead
no.
to things like House of Wolves being free. And that's almost certainly not the case with Destiny 2.
But it's crazy when you think of we're playing this, all the new raid things. Like that's a pretty sizable.
It's pretty
update,
sizable, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, but I mean, you say
Beautiful.
new raid things like it's new. It's
No,
not
but new
really
gear
new.
and new armor and new,
Sean, it's
mods
not
to
like
play,
one dude in the
like-
basement built that on the weekend.
saying, yeah.
And
again,
like, that took an art team and
Varix, he built it
massive
himself.
investment of resources to get that done.
Rebuilding the raid is no small task. That's not what I'm saying.
get
But
your
what I'm
point.
saying
New
is
maps,
it's not new.
new
one.
mode.
New content.
Like I would love
Crimson Double.
Yeah,
like
let's
redoing the
call
tower.
it. Let's speculate wildly here. If a new quarterly content pack was, let's call it, 3 or 4 new strikes, a couple new story missions, maybe 1 or 2 new PvP maps, and like a mode, like
priced at $19.99.
Sparrow Racing League type thing,
Yeah.
at
Priced
like
at
$10,
where?
that would be, or $15 even for that.
free.
And well, I mean, I said free because I'm a
I know,
huge
I'm messing
or
with
a
you,
huge Halo guy, and
big
they've done
fan of
everything
free.
free. Yeah, I mean, who isn't, right? But that's not realistic. I just like it as a fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be fairly priced to me, right? If it was about that size.
I think it's going to be closer to the $15 to $19 range. If it's 40, I mean,
No,
people
yeah,
are
I
going to
don't think
buy
they're
it, but
gonna
that's too much for that release cadence.
No, I
I
think
mean, that's for a month. We paid $40 for the Taken King, which
saying
was
every 4 months.
a year of content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a year versus something we would pay $40 for every quarter.
So I'm saying
That would
it's
be
like
too much.
every 4 months, or
would,
every
seems
3
Like
months, right?
$19.99 is the model.
So much.
I would remember, right? Like this is what I've been saying for like years now. I feel like, but Destiny 2
Might
lives
actually be
under.
years.
Well, yeah, but no, I think it is. But what I always talk about, right, is Destiny 2 lives under a whole new infrastructure, supposedly.
They're figuring it out.
Is a new engine or pieces of it. We don't know exactly, but seemingly it's faster to develop. We've heard they want to do that. Well, also we know about Moon Studios and Vicarious Visions. We also know Activision, right? They have a strategy with Call of Duty where 3, 4 publishers, 5 publishers working on it, so hopscotch. So
They have a DLC strategy that they need to meet for their investors.
there's always people working on something bigger, and we didn't get that in Destiny 1. The live team was about as far as you got. Now you have whole new studios, right? Shaders, loot box drops, for Overwatch, whatever. I think we're going to see that world. So all I was going to get, I think you'll see that $20 mark. I think you'll see some free updates as well. Like the same way, actually refresh my memory. Do you guys know for Overwatch when they did like the holiday skin packs, were those just free updates, right?
Well, you can buy it's loot boxes, right? You buy
Right, but they were free.
You get them.
And Destiny had some of that.
It's like you can earn them or you can buy
I
them.
know, but the point is you can earn your gold and buy them. But I think you're going to see that blend. You're going to see the whole not SRL, but the free holiday update type things, and hopefully see more of it. Shaders, skins, emblem. Then you'll see actual $20 drops. And then I just think too, that's where I hope we do live in a world where it's not just a strike, a raid occasionally, and a new map. I think hopefully there's more to it at this point.
If the DLC is hefty enough and like interesting enough each time, and it's $20, then I might be okay with it. But I have to see what that
If
content.
it has a raid in it every time, how would you feel about
It's
it?
not going to have a raid in it.
I know, but if it did, how much would you pay
Well,
for
for
it?
me, I would. If the narrative is as great as they say it's
Campaign,
going
I
to
should
be,
say.
the campaign,
Yeah. I hope
they don't,
then I
but-
might be super interested.
But think about Sean. I mean, for the most part, besides like Halo 5, previous versions of Halo, and I'm trying to think of other games, but Titanfall,
there was a raid every quarter.
Titanfall did free content as well. But for the most part, it's only PvP maps and a couple modes that get released, right? So
Yeah.
if you think about the fact that they're creating whole new PvE, maybe raids, maybe custom loot, weapons, there's a lot of stuff coming in. $20.
I mean, yeah, we don't know that
think
any of that
that's-
is in there, but
No, but it's like if you think
like
of
Fran
the
said,
price point,
there's a lot of opportunity for them to do a bunch of different things and package it in a bunch of different ways. Like you're right, we will see
yeah,
your
it's hard to
40.
say.
We'll see your $40 yearly big content. We'll see your $20 hopefully quarterly. Maybe we'll even see free sort of like cosmetic only weekly or bi-weekly stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good potential strategy. Now, it's hard for me to understand right now, right? But yeah, like an annual bigger release. You've got maybe, I was thinking more like 3 releases a year, maybe not 4. I think that feels about right and doable when you have multiple studios. So anyway, I remember paying for Dark Below, and at the time, it seemed totally worth it. And
Which was
then
how
I
much?
played it.
$20?
Yeah. But then I played it, and I sort of like, oh, wait, this felt a little stripped out of the game. at the
Spawn
time.
Trials.
That
was
one
the best
did.
ever.
But under the structure of now what Destiny is. And that's why it's really important. What is the base game? If there's already so much in it that when you add something, it sort of complements everything, that can have value that's hard to perceive right now.
But now at least we know what Destiny is. Prior to it coming out, it was a shooter. Now it's like nobody thinks that Destiny is just a shooter. You wouldn't classify it as just a shooter game. So when you're trying to compare it to Call of Duty, well, but
If
is
that's
it
all you
though?
play is Crucible, sure.
Yeah, because it's not really.
What are you
just
doing
a
when you
shooter.
raid?
You don't do any of the platforming
Yeah, but no one.
high
Okay,
score
let's.
challenges like these
You're
guys?
right. It is a lot more than just a shooter. But when you classify the game, it's
Yeah, it is a shooter.
right?
I mean, it is a shooter at its core, but think about what they were even branding it before.
So what's
You would-
Borderlands?
Yeah.
Shooter, RPG shooter.
I mean, it's not
These
just
are where-
that though. That's too.
Wait, I think you guys are arguing.
What is the
it-
primary? Okay, but you were getting into the weeds with how we discuss to classify games internally at a place like IGN. You're right, but I mean,
real question
It's
is
a
who
shooter.
cares?
yeah.
I don't.
It's an interesting. It's an interesting point.
It's like
for the
when you
marketing
called
team,
who
though,
was it?
right?
Who was it who was saying Uncharted 3 is a shooter?
James Duggan.
yeah.
Yeah, like he is right. You do a lot of shooting
it's
in that
not
game,
right.
but it's not a shooter.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's
weird. Anyway.
that's the issue. Yeah. So
You do a lot of RPG.
I feel like I'm about to make a
mechanically.
food analogy. You better move.
Oh,
on.
you are.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Fran.
there was one other topic. The Activision call was super interesting, and I got this big block quote here from Hirschberg. So yeah, I mean, that's just some of the stuff that came out of there. Also today, we wanted to talk to CJ, who's a dad, about the ESRB rating of Destiny versus Halo, for example, that came
right.
out many years ago. You're a huge Bungie and Halo fan.
Yes.
And Destiny
Huge
fan,
dad.
obviously.
Many years.
So
Big dad.
Also
real
a
quick,
dad.
real quick before we get into it, as a not dad, I don't pay attention to ratings. What is the rating for Destiny? It's
T.
Is it T?
Yeah.
Okay.
T for teen.
And I know very
Is it
specifically
Halo
that
team?
No. So Halo 5
yeah,
was the first.
Was the first T. I know that really
Yes.
recently.
Yeah, which is weird. If you look back and you think
Seems
Halo
unusual.
1,
It feels like a teen game. Yeah.
This is what I was thinking about the ESRB. Yeah, in general, just
first
over
ones
the
all had
years.
blood.
Yeah, the first. Well, but even still, it's like you think about what that was in blood, like in 2004.
Purple blood.
Yeah, what did that?
Well,
look
yeah,
like?
no, I know.
Comic
But I mean, we were talking about
glories.
Mortal Kombat before off air. Like,
Yeah.
that blood is like.
That's not about
that's
the blood.
violent,
That's about ripping someone's
Yeah.
spine out and like showing it off to cameras.
No, but as far as the ESRB goes, it was about the blood because on Super Nintendo they made the blood green and dodged that ESRB rating.
No blood in Super Nintendo. It was sweat. Genesis had a blood code actually.
Yeah, it
What was
did.
the one where it was green then? I thought that was the
don't know.
Nintendo version.
No, you're right. It had the mode where it was you could turn it off. There was a cheat for that too, I think.
Yeah, in Genesis.
Actually, no, you're right. It was the Nintendo version. They
Yeah,
changed
I
out the
thought so.
color of it.
Extra gory.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Genesis is
Like
super
more
great.
blood.
But yeah, that's the thing. So 1992 CJ, who played Mortal Kombat a long time ago, it was really weird because I played that in the arcade tons. Looking back at that, super violent game. I would never let my kids play that. Now, for full disclosure,
You don't let your kids play Destiny, but you let them play Titanfall.
so there you go. So this brings up a bunch of other questions. Well, because Titanfall is like, it was about, robots, and I played through the Titanfall campaign. There's nothing in Titanfall that was like super gory. Obviously, I think a lot of the things like that, well, no.
For
there
shooting
wasn't.
humans.
No,
You
don't
literally
shoot
break
people.
people's neck. You
I know.
turn their neck
You do.
all the way around
I
and
know.
split their throats.
No,
and
but it's kind of like it's not like Call of Duty where you're like,
rip
rip
their head off
Gouging
their
someone's
body.
eyes
Yeah,
out.
exactly. But no, so Titanfall is like robots. It's a big-
Destiny's much more violent, with the smoke when you kill
No,
people.
so Destiny's a little bit like scary in a way. If you think about like the ogres and Oryx and those kind of things. So I get why that it has a T rating, but
King's
to me,
Fall's creepy.
yeah, it is super creepy. So we were we were talking about this, like will I let my kids play Destiny? And for the most part,
Destiny 2.
well, so that's the thing. I have not let them play Destiny 1 yet. Will I let them play Destiny 2 also? I mean, this is the question, and I
Kids.
think
Dad.
yeah, I mean, so one of my sons is almost 11. The other one just turned 8, and then I have a 2-year-old. So the 2-year-old's definitely getting into Destiny.
That's
2.
right.
What grade are you in when you're 11? It's like
Grade 6.
6 or 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's time, CJ.
it is time. So besides my biggest fear is him getting better than me, which just that's the worst. I mean, it is going to
What a
happen.
great dad.
Yeah. So the other thing is, just playing first-person shooters in general is like an issue. It takes this different kind of mindset to play them. I didn't want them playing until about that age. You're really seeing me play them. But so yeah, to you guys, like you don't have kids, what do you think about? Do you remember even the early days?
Are you going to let him play it or not? I feel like it's
Yeah.
the longest
I
answer
mean,
ever. Are you going to
make
let him
a
play?
call right now
He's
on the
trying
show.
to decide apparently.
I mean,
I didn't
I
realize
grew up-
that.
I mean, I
thought
don't-
this had a point to
It
it.
does. I want to tell it after.
I'm very against this idea that like shooting in games makes people makes them violent or makes them accept violence easier than if they hadn't.
Well, they're already playing
Desensitized.
Titanfall.
Yeah, like it doesn't. I don't think shooting, like let's be real, shooting in games is objectively more fun than a lot of other types of like mechanics, right? Like it's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I get your point, by the way, but that's easy to say when you're already desensitized. We grow up in a world superpower that's
sure.
born out.
Okay.
That's the
so-
thing is like if you're gonna
Seriously.
so okay. I mean,
Some
you
people
can-
don't know guns very closely.
To figure out CJ's slider before
Anyway,
you
sorry,
continue,
yeah.
where does GTA fall? When can they play that?
I mean, how is that even a comparison?
Well,
Of
but-
course not.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Of course
No.
not. What age can they play it though? He's
that?
11 now. When
Yeah.
can they play GTA?
Okay.
So a lot of these kinds of
don't get how
things
it's
are
personal
decisions.
it's a personal decision. It's like they gave the game's rating for a reason, but again, within the context of like parent, over.
Full disclosure, my dad won't let me play Destiny. I've been lying. He still won't let me do it.
But
It's
yeah,
great that you're considering this stuff and actually using the rating system because
The rating system is nonsense. It's like the movie rating system.
So there.
Well,
so
he
think
actually
about
plays
that.
the games.
Yeah.
and
So
figures it out for himself.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like
yeah.
parenting. I don't think is looking at the rating system. I think it's looking at the game and making a judgment based
Blammo.
on
Yes.
what
That's
you
what
think
he's
is
doing.
best for your
That's the
kids.
best
as a
way to
parent.
do it.
Right?
That's
I'm not saying he's not doing it.
No, no.
I'm just saying is like when we're talking about
Just
the
trying to
ESRB,
commend CJ. Can you
kind
give
of-
the guy a break?
I'm
Good job being
I'm
his
complimenting the
dad.
guy too. I'm just saying that the ESRB is nonsense. So is the MPAA. Like it doesn't do anything.
Supposed to be
really.
a guide, but it's by the way, it's supposed to be guidance for
Guidelines.
parents.
It's supposed to be.
You're nailing it. You're
isn't.
nailing it. Which the parents that just look at the boxes and give it to their kids and
Without
think
looking at
That's what you don't
without
do.
coming to IGN and looking at a review.
Well, I've seen dads buy their kids Fallout 4.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, here you go, 12-year-old kid.
Well, and most of those
And it's
parents
gory as heck.
aren't playing the game. And so that's the thing. They're not playing the game. They're just going, oh, whatever. I've heard this game is popular. And even with the rating there, going like, oh, I'm sure it's fine for my kids.
It comes down to a responsibility thing, which is like parents are like, well, you can't expect me to play the game and make a value judgment. I don't know that time. And
you
it's like, well,
watched that
you're deflecting
know.
your own responsibility as a parent. Like,
Just bad parents.
and then you're blaming the game when your kid does something like, oh, it's so backwards. It makes me angry.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I don't get it when people are like, oh, well, video games are too violent. You're like, you're going to demonize video games when the world is the way it is right now. Like, I think video games, even if they are violent, which I don't think the violence, impacts violence in like a character way for people.
Studies about that people can read for themselves.
Yeah. Even if it is true, which I don't think it is, it's far less impactful than like seeing murders wildly on TV.
Parents are a way bigger part of the problem than anything else, is what I would say.
Just
But-
letting
and I'm
kids
not a
play
parent.
the
but-
games. No, I mean, that's the thing. Think about movies like Avengers.
How do
and
you
all those
feel
things
about all
right
the
now.
other parents in the world?
They're all doing
I-
a fantastic job. But it's difficult. I mean, it's straight up because there's no rule book. Like, that's why the ESRB is a rating system where you should be engaged with what your children are doing, but then also be aware that what is good for you may not be good for somebody else. Right.
The conversation was Halo 1 was rated M.
Right.
Destiny's rated T for teen.
You know it's in both of them.
Yeah. And looking back at Halo 1, is that an M-rated game now?
No.
Definitely not. And that's the thing. So looking at like how much, if you think about like desensitized we become, Destiny, how many years ago?
Yeah, or like,
For sure that's an M-rated game.
look at the
And
first
now,
Mortal Kombat, that's M. Look at Mortal Kombat now, which is like extraordinarily violent. So that was the other thing. I actually had this old man moment too, watching the latest Mortal Kombat X. Was that it? Yeah. Like, I remember seeing all of the fatalities. You made a video that was like
bit much.
every, what is it, brutality and fatality in 1080p 60. Yeah. And I watched that and I was like, oh my God. Like, even I, as someone who is very, I would call it desensitized to violence, and in movies and in video games, I don't care at all. I was watching this and I was like, my God, kids are playing this? Like, that's
Escalation.
insane.
Well, it's rated M. They're not
Only if their
supposed
parents
to be.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, long
CJ
story
ever
short,
gonna answer the question,
Yeah, I was gonna
or
say,
what is this?
So I will. I mean,
Like, what is the question?
Yeah, the question is, should
just a
you let
philosophical
your
debate.
kids play Destiny as a teen-rated game? And for the most part, I think that's up to the parent. But I mean, I think that an 11-year-old at his age, my biggest thing with him playing shooters in general is that they become, they're very addicting.
Really, CJ?
Says the guy
really,
who
3 a.m. Destin and CJ
plays
trials?
trials an awful lot on the weekend. So I do want them to appreciate other games for the genre that they are almost before they go there. Like, they're playing Zelda Breath of the Wild right now. Love that game. They're playing a bunch of those other games where I feel like getting them into these kind of shooters, they'll almost omit those type of games. And that's my bigger fear.
What's Zelda? T?
Yeah. I
no
mean,
way
not
Zelda's
even
T,
probably.
right?
Yeah, I'm not
What's
sure.
below
actually.
T?
You
Is
should
there a
look it up
G?
real quick.
What's the
Well, you
G or
kill
PG?
goblins by drowning them. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, it's E. Yeah, E for
There's
everyone.
also that, yeah.
So even that, so even just thinking about those games, and for the most part, I've even like gone through the ranks saying, hey, before you play these 3D games, you got to actually play the old school NES games, play the Super Nintendo games. So there's you want them to experience those things in a linear kind of way.
I think that's where you need to ask yourself what your kid is going to get out of the experience. And that's a great way to look at Zelda. I think Zelda's a great game. It's got real problem solving, puzzle solving. It's exploration, but there's the cooking, the memorization. It's got a really nice variety. And to that point, what do they get out of Destiny? Certainly dexterity. There's definitely problem solving and raids.
Strategy,
But-
execution.
But you're right. It gets to a point where it's repetitive, maybe, and then that is where it's maybe you want to make sure they try other stuff. Like puzzle games, honestly, I think kids don't play enough. They think they're boring.
So
but
true.
Yeah.
And
They
they're
are
not-
really useful. They're really
Tetris,
great.
man. Still one of the greatest games.
Mind
We've all been playing shooters probably since we were very young, right? I would say we all turned out right. I think it's more about implementing the right values with your kids and less
You gotta
about
show your shirt.
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh.
What is
I
happening?
got it.
Oh
God, what a troll, dude.
I was like, what is he doing?
Showing off his
You were
serious
supposed to
conversation.
go to Fran's camera. You blew it, producer in the back.
And Destin's showing off his shirt.
Boom.
Little Destinel.
There
Very
we go.
nice. I like it.
Wah, wah. Oh, there you go. Now
Wait, can I get the shirt without completing the book?
No, you got to do the book.
Destin's got his
The
little,
whole thing?
it's nice.
You got the
What colors can you get this
We're
in?
going to complete those.
Blue,
little
bright blue.
True blue?
Yeah.
Very subtle, Destin. Very subtle.
Way to derail the conversation.
Yeah,
Right, back to the super serious conversation.
So Destin gets
What
his,
were you saying?
his
I'm just
team
saying,
back
in
on
some, it's more about implementing the right values and with your kids and what they should be taking away from games than what they're playing specifically. Because I've been playing shooters since I was like 4, I think. I don't know. How are you when you're? I mean, what grade are you when you're like
So
5,
many
like
things
kindergarten
that
and
are
stuff?
surprising
When I was
about you
5?
right now, but
I mean, like, what was the first shooter I played? Had to have been like,
GoldenEye or something?
yeah, we're like,
no,
Time
did you play, like,
Crisis.
Shooter or something like
I wouldn't
2D
call that
or
a
something?
shooter though.
Like Doom or
2D
Wolfenstein, like
side-scroller.
PC?
Okay, but
shoot 'em
Oh, but
up.
I mean, like
Shmups.
first person shooter.
Shooters, yeah.
What was
Yeah,
you
the
know.
first person
More realistic
shooter,
is
yeah,
what you're
would have been like
Time
like
Crisis,
Time
probably.
Crisis or GoldenEye on console, somewhere around there. I would have been like 7 or 6. And
Like Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, maybe? No, I'm too old.
Yeah. Oh, he's way further back.
mine was
Medal of
mine
Honor?
was Wolfenstein probably.
yeah, like
Doom.
Doom and Wolfenstein.
Doom.
Of course.
Doom,
I'm
Doom,
saying,
Doom.
yeah, I would have been like 5 when that came out.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that at like my mom's work when she had this. When she's a doctor, I'd go to her office and hang out while she was finishing up with patients after school, and I would just play on her work PC because that was where it had.
That's the thing, like almost pre ESRB. Like nobody even really knew what the ESRB was in those olden days, even when it came out.
Yeah, but like
right?
Doom and Wolfenstein for that time and even now are very violent games, and
for
that turned
sure.
out fine. And I think it's because I had good parents. I think it's in the absence of good parenting
For
when
sure.
things that have maybe a tinge of bad influence become more amped up.
Yeah. And again, non-regulation of like hours and what they're doing online.
You guys are really good about that.
yeah, and there's a bunch of things that to be like in
CJ's playing all the time.
12 hours
I know,
only.
and that's the
They
thing.
can't. They can't get on
yeah.
because
45
it's
minutes,
on.
guys, and that's it.
Daddy's got to
time.
play. Yeah.
But I think that's the bigger issue is a lot of parents who are not gamers, and this is beneficial for me, is that I know what the games are like. I'm usually playing them far in advance, so I don't have a problem with certain games that I know are going to be okay. But for the people who aren't, yeah, it's a serious like challenge. And
Your kids
think what
want to
you
play
do-
with you?
yeah, and so this is what I joke is that once they get to that point, like I have a trials team set for life here. Like you get the dexterity up and get Charlie and Isaiah in there, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
you're
there'll
ready,
be
man.
I'll have like the squad of 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think a great way to approach it is like whatever. If your eldest is ready, play it a little bit with him, but say we're only playing together. That's sort of our time to play it, but he can't play it on his own maybe, and you sort of that way you really can monitor it.
Yeah.
And make sure he's seeing the right stuff and doing the right stuff. Also online communities and all that whole other discussion.
Whole other problem.
Actually, a little dangerous. Suddenly they're getting influence from people online, and
I mean, the sequel even seems to deal with death in some very.
we don't know if the
yeah.
sequel
Yeah, for
is
sure.
a little more gory or real.
Yeah, so from a storytelling standpoint, I'm less concerned about those things. It's, playing online unsupervised and all those other things, which again, it was really weird. For the people who tuned in last week, I did stream for the first time.
Yeah.
I did some PvP late at night, and I think there was somebody on the other side of the world who joined in, and I was like, yeah, sure, why don't you jump in?
And it was a kid.
Yeah, of course, we sent him a private match, and he's like 14.
Oh, yeah.
And we hear,
Hi, CJ.
hey guys, thanks. And I was like,
The squeaker.
okay, here we go. And so again, everybody then instantaneously goes into PG mode, and we're all pretty good. Like I'm a PG kind of guy anyway, so I don't usually drop any swear words.
You are
when I'm playing a
Canadian.
game, and I am Canadian. But it is weird that even in that context, you go, okay, how old are you?
Yeah.
Your parents know you're playing, and then you start. Everybody does that, even if they don't have kids. Like as a dad, for sure. But even the people that I were playing with were like, "Okay, guys." But then, of course, this kid is sniping our faces off, and I'm
Because
like,
he's so good. I
just want to like curse and swear at
So I
him.
produce a bunch of the other shows here at
shot.
IGN. On NVC, Pear brought this up, but like he was playing Mario Kart with his kids, and if you've played Mario Kart, that game can be really
Yeah.
It feels like it looks all cutesy and fun and stuff. It's like Mad Max when you're playing online. Like it is so intense.
real, yeah.
And he's like, even he can't like fully hold back all the time, and he'll drop like swear words here and there and stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to be worried about. I mean, that's one thing that I am not envious of any parent nowadays, because like in my day, you didn't really have to worry about other players talking to you because online hadn't been developed really.
You had to go to an arcade.
You had to go to an arcade, or
Worry about real people.
if you were a
talking to
PC guy like me, you only could talk trash at like LAN parties, which you had to unhook your computer, bring it to a physically different location, pay an entrance fee, and then play for like the whole weekend.
But I love talking trash. I mean, that's one of those things. I do PvP late night with people like the Future and Bill Zach and even Stev, who beats me all the time. I love talking trash. It's a total
it totally is.
Yeah, it's just like it's
part
like,
of the game.
Yeah, it's a
fun.
psychological thing to do, and I don't mean any ill will by it at all. I think that was the reason why when they eliminated proximity chat from Halo 2, part of me died. I was like, I loved going in there for those flag kills, going, crouching on the guy, and knowing you're within like 10-foot range and they could hear you, and then your voice drops out. I was like, oh, I miss that so much. It's fun. So, proximity chat for Destiny 2.
That would be
Bring it back.
That'd be so
Put it
cool.
on if it's possible.
I would.
I would love it. I would love it as a Titan, like coming in with a Superman dive, being like, "Hello, surprise!"
Dude,
you have like a soundboard.
Oh my god, it would be
shoulder
so
charging
fun.
me.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, and just the sticky folks.
That's the PC
I would
mod.
love it.
Yeah, we'll have that on
Turning a
PC.
quarter shoulder charging friend to be like, "Sect."
Yep, exactly. And
Oh,
he's
it'd be
down.
great.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
That's fun, man. Like that adds to it. But yeah, I mean, you get those kids who are way, or not just kids, but people who are way too into it, who can ruin the fun for other people, or especially if you're worried for your own kids.
Yes. So long story short, we'll let my kids play Destiny 2. I might even let them get started on Destiny 1 in the next little bit. The issue is, thinking about it now, it's like, they can't play on my character. So now I'm going to have to buy another PSN account, do another thing.
I mean,
Setups, man.
I think to bring it full circle, like Destiny of the shooters is probably tame, right? Like there's parts of it that are creepy and in terms of its like creature design and stuff. But as far as violence goes, it's not ultra violent. You're not like you mentioned Call of Duty, running up behind people and snapping their necks. It's not at all like Mortal Kombat where you're like pulling
Paris is
people's
scary.
spines out and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a little creepy, but she's a nice person.
Is she? Come on, Sean.
She gives you raisins.
She gave you her shit.
Gonna turn.
Her eyes are bleeding.
She let you destroy her ship.
I think so, yeah. But yeah, so long story short, I think totally gonna let them start into Destiny 2, maybe Destiny 1. I am excited though, and I do think the game being rated T for teen also helps sales a bit as well. I mean, it's the same thing with like a PG rating and an
Our movies
rating.
don't gross as much. Yeah,
That's the thing. So I get it, and from that standpoint, it's kind of like the Disney version of shooters in a way. So.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Be sure you check out our top 10 features that we won in Destiny 2, produced by James Duggan. We had a lot of input. Don't worry.
Really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked to him
A
quite
lot
a
of those
bit.
features are things we've discussed here on the show.
Definitely. That is it for this episode. So until next time, Guardians out.